Mo, you know what the best gift would be. My dad looked me dead in the eyes, voice cold and steady. If you disappeared from this house, the room went silent. My mom stared down at her plate. No one said a word. And I just stood there, holding the little photo album I'd made with shaking hands. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just walked upstairs, packed my bag, and left. But they had no idea what I'd do next. Hi, my name is Ethan Harper. I'm 29 years old. Graduated top of my class from Wharton. Worked for one of the biggest fintech firms in San Francisco. 6-figure salary. Ocean view office. You'd think I had it all. But deep down, I was drowning. Drowning in guilt, pressure, and expectations that were never mine to begin with. I was raised to be perfect. Not happy. Just perfect. But what they never expected was that I'd one day stop playing their game. Before we dive into how I turned that humiliation into the most silent, devastating revenge you've ever heard, take a second to like this video. Drop a comment below if you've ever felt like you weren't enough. And subscribe for more real, raw stories just like this one. Now let me take you back to where it all started. Cherry Hill, Massachusetts. You know the kind of neighborhood where every lawn looks like it came from a landscaping magazine, where kids are chess champions by age 8, and parents flex their child's GPA like it's a bank statement. That's where I grew up. My parents, Evelyn and Douglas Harper, weren't just strict. They were architects of expectation. My mother was an accountant. Calm voice, sharp eyes, sharper guilt trips. My father, construction engineer. A towering man with a thunderstorm for a voice. I was their only child. Their project. Their proof. By the time I was 6, my handwriting had to look like I was preparing for the SATs. By 8, I already knew a B on a test meant dinner in silence. By 10, I stopped showing them the sketches I made, little cars, product ideas, tiny dreams on paper. Because every time I did, my mother would say, "That's sweet. Ethan, now go finish your physics homework." I didn't get hit. Not physically. But the emotional pressure. It felt like wearing a 1,000-pound suit every day. Smiling, performing, while suffocating. They didn't scream. They just looked disappointed. Which, somehow, was worse. The only place I felt safe was under the old oak tree in our backyard. I'd sit there for hours, sketching futuristic cars, letting my imagination breathe. But even that was taken away when I got caught missing a tutoring session. They cut the branches off that tree the next week. Too many leaves falling into the neighbor's yard, my dad said. No. It was because I found joy there. And joy wasn't part of the plan. I got straight A's, won math competitions, got into Wharton. Every checkbox ticked, but none of it was for me. The day I got accepted, my dad patted me on the shoulder like I had just been promoted to lieutenant in his imaginary army. "You're finally doing something that makes us proud," he said. I smiled, because that's what I was trained to do. But inside, I felt nothing. Wharton was supposed to be my escape. But you can't run from a prison when you're carrying the bars inside you. I majored in economics, because they told me to. Every other student seemed to have a dream CEO, hedge fund manager, startup founder. Me, I just wanted to breathe. I remember sneaking into a design class across campus. The smell of paint, the sound of scissors on paper, For the first time in years, I felt alive. Then I slipped, told my mom about it on a phone call. Are we paying that tuition so you can play with crayons? Next week, I dropped the class. That night, I stared at the ceiling in my dorm, realizing even when I was 22, legally an adult, I still belonged to them. I graduated with honors, walked across that stage in cap and gown. They were there, camera in hand, beaming. Ethan Harper, our son. Ivy League. Wharton. The pictures looked like a celebration. But the truth, that degree was just a receipt. Proof that they had successfully molded me, not into a man, but into their idea of one. After graduation, I moved to San Francisco, got a job in a fintech firm. Numbers, spreadsheets, meetings, 12-hour days in a glass building overlooking the bay. People called me successful, but every morning I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize the guy buttoning up that white shirt. I kept sending money home, at first as a thank you. Then it became expected. The Johnson's son just bought their parents a beach house. My dad said once. I nodded. I'll try harder. But inside, I wanted to scream, is there a number that will make you love me without conditions? Then came the layoffs. My company got acquired. HR sent a generic email. Thank you for your service. You have 2 weeks to transition out. 3 years. Gone. Just like that. I called my girlfriend Olivia. She told me it would be okay. But I didn't want comfort. I wanted silence. I wanted space to feel like a failure without having to explain it to anyone. I kept it from my parents. Still sent money. Even as I sold furniture and rationed groceries. And then, I made a mistake. A friend from college pitched a startup. It's a guaranteed 10x return, he said. I wired $50,000 or $1,000. It folded in 6 months. My savings were gone. I couldn't pay rent. My landlord wanted 3 months up front, and I had no one, except the people I feared most, the ones I had run from. I called home. Can I come back for a while? My mom paused, then said, come back, Ethan, but don't expect us to support you forever. And just like that, I was back. Back in Newton. Back in the red brick house I swore I'd never enter again. Back in the room that still had medals I no longer felt worthy of. But I didn't know then that the worst night of my life, Thanksgiving, was coming. And it would change everything. Because when my dad humiliated me in front of neighbors that night, I didn't fight back. Not yet. But I started planning something they never saw coming. I wish I could tell you that going back home brought some kind of relief. That maybe my parents, Evelyn and Douglas, welcomed me with compassion, or even a trace of warmth. But the moment I stepped through that red brick doorway, I realized something. I wasn't their son anymore. I was a disappointment they were tolerating out of obligation. The first night, my mom didn't ask how I was doing. She asked when I was going to get back on my feet. My dad didn't even look up from the news, just grunted something like, try not to embarrass us. I slept in my childhood room that hadn't changed since high school. The same trophies, the same debate medals. Even the old cork board where I once pinned sketches of futuristic cars now bare. The kid who dreamed under that roof no longer existed. Only a man with a broken resume and a backpack full of failure. Each morning, I woke up to the same cold silence. No greetings, No small talk, just expectations. And what did you do today? Ethan, apply to another job. Play video games. My dad asked that last one like it was a punchline. Every meal felt like a performance review, and I was failing. Even when I did get interviews, I never told them, because each rejection made the humiliation worse. Not a good fit. Overqualified. We've decided to go in a different direction. I'd stare at the computer screen, jaw tight, chest hollow, and somehow I still sent them money. Every single month, even if it meant eating ramen for a week. But it was never enough. Is this all? My dad once asked. The neighbor's son bought his parents a condo in Sarasota. I said I'd try harder, just like always, because that's what I was trained to say. But inside, I was screaming. The only light in my life came from Olivia. We still talked, though less often now. She had stayed in California, working freelance and chasing what she loved. Every time I heard her voice, I was reminded of the life I'd lost, or maybe never had. You can't stay there forever, Ethan. That place is killing you. I knew she was right. But I didn't have the money or the courage to leave. Not yet. Then came Thanksgiving. My mom announced they were hosting a dinner. Relatives, neighbors, the whole show. "You're coming downstairs, Ethan," she said. "Don't make us look bad." I nodded, like always. But inside, something had changed. 6 months of silence, of jabs, of living like a ghost in my own house, had chipped something loose. I wasn't angry. Not yet. But I was tired. So tired of pretending, I wanted to offer something. Anything. Even if I had nothing material to give. So I spent the week before Thanksgiving building a small photo album. I found old family pictures of me on the beach, a picnic in the park, my dad holding a model car I once built from scratch. On the first page, I wrote, "Thank you for raising me. I promise I'll keep trying." It wasn't much, but it came from everything I had left. A quiet plea, a final olive branch. That night, I dressed in the best shirt I had, stood in front of the mirror and practiced smiling. "Just get through it," I whispered. One night, the dining room glowed under the chandelier. Turkey, mashed potatoes, wine, laughter floated through the air, at least until I sat down. Then came the inevitable. "Ethan," my dad said, lifting his wine glass. "Tell us what you've been doing for the past 6 months." I tried to keep my voice steady. "Still job hunting, some freelance gigs, nothing concrete yet." He chuckled. Loudly. "Still what? Are you waiting for someone to hand it to you? You cost us a fortune at Wharton. And now look at you. Just sitting around, mooching off your parents." The room went dead silent. Everyone stared at their plates. No one stepped in. Not my mom. Not the neighbors. Not even Aunt Lydia, who always had something to say. I felt my throat close. My hand gripped the edge of the table. But I didn't explode. I just quietly reached under the table and pulled out the album. I placed it in front of my parents, voice barely above a whisper. "I made this for you." My mom opened it. Her eyes flicked across the pages. A faint smile. Then nothing. She pushed it toward my dad. He flipped through it once. Then pushed it aside like it was junk mail. "What's this supposed to be?" he asked. "A scrapbook," You think old photos will make up for the fact that you've done nothing with your life. I didn't respond. I couldn't. That's when he leaned back, folded his arms, and said it. The sentence that burned into my memory like fire. You know what the best gift would be, Ethan. If you disappeared from this house. I looked at him, really looked, and for the first time in my life, I didn't feel shame, or guilt, or fear. I felt cold, calm, clear. I stood, walked upstairs, packed my bag. No one stopped me. And that night, as snow began to fall outside that red brick house, I walked away. From my parents, from Newton, from every version of me that had lived only to please. I didn't know where I was going. I had no plan, no money, no roof. But I had something I hadn't felt in years, the first flicker of freedom. And that small flame, it would soon become a fire they could never extinguish. The snow that night didn't feel cold. It felt honest. Every step I took away from that red brick house was one less link in the chain I had worn my whole life. I didn't know where I was going. My backpack held 2 changes of clothes, a laptop, and whatever dignity I had left. My phone was down to 7%. I had $83 in my checking account. But somehow, for the first time in years, I wasn't afraid. I ended up at a dimly lit bus stop near Route 9. A cracked plastic bench, a flickering overhead bulb. I sat there in the silence, watching snow gather on my sleeves. I pulled my phone out and scrolled through my contacts, hoping for a miracle. And then I remembered him, my grandfather, Samuel Harper. He lived in Asheville, North Carolina. A quiet man who once fixed vintage cars in a small garage behind his house. I hadn't seen him in nearly 15 years. My parents rarely spoke of him. When they did, it was dismissive. That old grease monkey has nothing to teach you. Waste of a life. But I remembered the one summer I spent with him as a kid. We rebuilt a lawnmower engine together. He let me hold the wrench. He let me fail. He let me laugh. That memory surfaced like a warm current beneath freezing water. I didn't have his number. No address. All I remembered was a dirt road, a crooked sign, and the smell of motor oil. That was enough. I spent the last of my money on a series of cheap bus rides south. Boston to Philadelphia. Philadelphia to Roanoke. Roanoke to Asheville. No sleep. No food beyond vending machine pretzels and gas station coffee. Just window after window of America passing by. A blur of frozen trees and streetlights. I arrived in Asheville with 30 cents in my pocket. It was morning. Sky pale. Air crisp. I asked a newspaper vendor at the terminal, "Do you know a Samuel Harper used to run a garage out on the edge of town?" He squinted. "Take the main road past the bridge. Look for a wooden house with a rusted truck in the yard." Hard to miss. He was still there. Same peeling white house, same creaky porch, same crooked sign, Harper's Garage, since 1972. I walked up slowly, heart pounding, hands ice cold with sweat. I knocked, and when he opened the door, I nearly broke down. He had aged, of course. White beard, weathered face. But those eyes still gentle, still curious. "Can I help you?" he asked, unsure. I tried to speak, but my throat clenched. "It's me," I said. "Ethan, your grandson." His expression softened like melted wax. "My God," he whispered. "Look at you." He pulled me into a hug, tight. real. And for the first time in months, I let myself breathe. Inside his house was the smell of old coffee and wood smoke. The furniture hadn't changed in decades. He showed me to the spare room upstairs. No questions, no judgment. Just a simple, rest first, talk later. I slept for 14 hours straight. When I finally came down to the kitchen, he poured me a cup of coffee and asked, "Want to talk?" And I told him everything. The suffocating childhood, Wharton, the job, the layoffs, the humiliation at Thanksgiving, the final sentence that broke me. He listened, never interrupted, just nodded. When I finished, he sat back and said, "You're not broken, Ethan. You're just unfinished. This place isn't much, but it's yours for as long as you need." The next morning, he handed me a rag and a wrench. "Help me out back. Truck's been stubborn lately." And that was how my healing began. Not in therapy, not in some TED Talk epiphany, but under a rusted pickup hood with oil-stained hands and the hum of old blues on the radio. Each bolt I tightened, each spark plug I replaced, each scratch on my knuckle, it reminded me I was real. I wasn't just a GPA or a salary or a disappointment. I was a human being with hands, with grit, with the ability to make something work again. The garage became my sanctuary. I started spending my evenings sketching again. Cars, keychains, desk organizers, small things, stupid things. Then I signed up for an online course in product design. Used Grandpa's old laptop. Stayed up late watching tutorials on 3D modeling, CAD software, and basic HTML. It was slow, frustrating, but it felt like something that belonged to me. Something no one had assigned or expected. One night, I showed Grandpa a sketch of a custom tool holder I designed. He stared at it for a while, then said, "Looks like you've still got the eye, kid." Then he pulled out an envelope from a drawer. "This is all I've got," he said. Inside was $500 in cash. "Start something with it. Anything. I believe in you." I didn't cry, but I felt something tighten in my chest and stay there. That $500 became the seed for Harper Revival Co. I built a small online store, designed keychains shaped like old Mustangs, t-shirts with garage-inspired prints, handmade pen holders carved from reclaimed wood. At first, nothing. No sales, no clicks. But then, one order, then 3, then 20. I shipped them from Grandpa's garage. He helped package, wrote handwritten thank you notes in that neat cursive only old men seem to have. Each product, each review, each thank you message from a stranger, it chipped away at that old shame. I was building something real. And then, one day, while I was photographing new items by the barn door, I heard a familiar voice. "You think you can hide from me forever?" I turned around. It was Olivia. She stood there, smiling, hands on her hips. Same piercing eyes, same reckless warmth. "I called your old job, asked your friends. Then your cousin told me you'd come south. I had to see if it was true." I was speechless. She walked closer and took my oil-stained hand. "I'm not here to save you," she said. "I'm here to build with you, if you'll let me." And just like that, the part of me that had gone numb began to wake up. With Olivia by my side and my company just starting to grow, you'd think things were turning around. And they were. But then an email arrived. Subject line: Your parents' house is for sale. That's when the plan began. Not for revenge, not at first, but for something deeper. Closure. A week after Olivia's surprise visit, I felt more alive than I had in years. Harper Revival Co. was growing. Orders came in from Vermont, Texas, Florida keychains, t-shirts, little wooden organizers. Every morning I woke up excited. Every night I went to bed dreaming of new designs. My parents, I thought, were just a memory. I had forgiven, healed, moved on. Then came the email. Subject 123 Maple Avenue. Newton for sale from Newton Real Estate Services. I stared at my laptop screen in Grandpa's garage office. My hands stopped working the wrench I held. My heart pounded. It was the red brick house, the one where I lost my childhood, the one that triggered my flight that snowy Thanksgiving night. They were selling it. Below market price, according to the listing. Financial trouble, health issues. A part of me flickered. A darker part, long dormant, whispered, "This is your chance." I closed my eyes and went back to that dinner table, my dad's laughter, his words slicing through me, my mom's silent approval, neighbors' eyes on me like I was an exhibit of failure. I remembered the shame, the emptiness, the vow I made under falling snow never again. That vow didn't mean avoidance. It meant control. And suddenly, I saw a path. Over the next 48 hours, I built a plan in my head. Research ownership. Learn who holds the mortgage. Confirm listing details. Form an LLC. Use Harper Revival Co. to keep my identity secret. Secure funds. Use our profits and a small business loan. Grandpa's $500 seed multiplied 100-fold would cover the deposit. Contact real estate agent. Appear as a savvy investor from out of state. Close quickly. Cash offer at asking price to outbid any other buyers. Serve notice. Federal eviction process as per Massachusetts law. Walk away. Let them realize the phantom buyer was their son. I didn't relish cruelty. I craved justice. Silence as retribution. No confrontation, no dramatics. Just the slow burn of watching them face the consequences of their own words. I booked a video call with my friend Marcus, a broker in Boston. I explained the plan in terse sentences. He vetted the property, confirmed the low asking price, and offered to represent Harper Revival Co. discreetly. Next, I sat with Olivia in our little workshop. She met my gaze when I told her. Her face was calm, but I saw the flicker of pride. No judgment. Only support that night. Grandpa listened as I outlined every step. He folded his hands, then nodded. "You're doing this your way," he said. I understand. I felt a wash of relief. I wasn't alone. The paperwork arrived. LLC formation documents, proof of funds, purchase agreement templates. I spent hours filling in blank lines. Harper Revival Properties, LLC, 123 Maple Avenue. Newton. Every keystroke felt like tipping the scales. For the first time, I owned that house. On paper, at least. I wired the deposit from our business account. Then I sat back and exhaled, watching the confirmation ping in my inbox. It was done. On a cold January morning, I watched the agent file the offer. She whispered on the phone. They accepted. Contract signed. Closing in 2 weeks. I closed my laptop, feeling an odd calm. No triumphant fist pump, just a deep breath. because I knew this was only the beginning. Next came the eviction notice, then the realization that the buyer was me. They would wake up one morning to discover that the house and their own past now belonged to the son they drove away. 2 weeks after the offer was accepted, I sat at my kitchen table in Asheville, sipping coffee with Olivia. On the surface, life was good, orders were up. Our little company was expanding, designs were selling. But under that calm, a single envelope rested on the table, addressed to Douglas and Evelyn Harper. Inside was the eviction notice, drafted by my attorney friend in Boston. It complied with Massachusetts law, 30 days to vacate. Failure to comply could lead to formal eviction proceedings, legal fees to be borne by the tenants. I watched Olivia's eyes soften when she saw the notice. She understood exactly what it meant. No dramatic confrontation, no shouting, just the quiet weight of black ink on white paper. Step 1, preparing the notice. I printed 2 copies, one for the mail, one for personal delivery. Every word had been vetted legally airtight, emotionally neutral. No insults, no lectures, just facts and deadlines. I signed as Harper Revival Properties, LLC, in elegant script. It felt surreal signing their names, my parents' names, on a document that would uproot them. Olivia sealed the letter in a plain manila envelope. No return address beyond the LLC. No hint that their own son was behind it. Step 2, serving dinner table justice. A local process server agreed to deliver it at the Newton address on a Friday morning. He called me that afternoon. Mr. Harper? She's accepted it. Left it on the kitchen counter. I thanked him and hung up. In my chest, a quiet thrill. No vindictive laughter. Just a sense of completion. Step 3, the first reaction. That evening, Grandpa and Olivia joined me on video call. We watched my mother open the envelope on camera from 2 states away. Her hands trembled. She read the first line aloud, "You are hereby notified." Her voice broke. Dad barged in, saw the paper, and slammed his fist on the counter. We didn't speak. We just watched their faces. That moment, raw shock. Confusion was more powerful than any confrontation. Step 4, the neighborly whisper. Within 24 hours, rumors spread in Newton's tight-knit circle. Our real estate friend called. They're asking neighbors what happened. Some think there's a feud. Others whisper it's a foreclosure. I let them talk. Silence was my ally. No one could connect the dots to me. Step 5, deepening the sting. A week later, I instructed the agent to initiate formal proceedings, a summary process under Massachusetts law, a notice to show cause for eviction, dates, deadlines, fees. Every step I took was documented and public record. Soon, any background check would reveal a tenant-led eviction. My parents' pride and their social standing would erode in plain sight. Step 6, watching from afar. I returned to my designs, to client orders, to crafting new products. But every morning I checked the Newton Courthouse docket online. Every entry a new hearing date. A new deadline felt like a measured heartbeat. Slow, relentless, unavoidable. Step 7, the power of quiet. No angry emails from me. No phone calls. No midnight confrontations. Just legal notices. Just the unstoppable machinery of contracts. They could rage. They could plead. But they couldn't debate the letter of the law. Many climaxes along the way. First, hearing Dad tried to represent himself. Judge pointed out lack of response. Case continued. Neighbor's dinner party, Aunt Lucy whispered. Did you hear about the eviction before quickly changing the subject? Final notice. Their lawyer conceded, vacate by the end of the month or face sheriff's lockout. Each moment was a quiet victory. No fireworks. Just the slow dismantling of the control they once held over me. Emotional undercurrents. I'll admit, I felt a tug of guilt. They were my parents, after all. But as I watched my own family, Grandpa smiling proudly, Olivia by my side cheer me on, I realized something. This wasn't cruelty. It was freedom. Their punishment was nothing compared to the years they punished me. In the final hours, I transferred the deed of 123 Maple Avenue into Harper Revival Properties' name. One more signature, one more click. The house was fully mine. When the sheriff's notice went up on the front door of 123 Maple Avenue, the world of Evelyn and Douglas Harper collapsed in a single instant. I watched the video feed my real estate agent sent me heavy snow blanketing the lawn, the old chandelier flickering through a frosted window, and my parents peering out with stunned faces. They had never expected me to follow through. Never imagined the son they drove away would return not with tears or apologies, but with legal power in hand. Morning of the lockout. Dad was the first to discover the notice. He looked for my mother with an incredulous glare, ragged coat half-zipped. Evelyn stumbled down the stairs, clutching her robe, face pale. He pointed, "You see this? They're kicking us out of our own home." Her lips trembled. She read the document aloud, voice breaking. "You have 5 days to vacate before enforcement action." They looked at each other, shock giving way to anger. My mother's shoulders shook like she was cold, but it was rage, not winter, making her tremble. Neighborly shock by midday. Whispers rippled through the cul-de-sac. The Carters arrived with casseroles and awkward gesture. "Is everything okay, Mrs.?" Carter asked. Evelyn forced a polite smile. "Oh, we're fine." Behind them, neighbor after neighbor crossed their arms and shook their heads. No one had ever seen the Harpers in this position. In Newton, a foreclosure or eviction was a stain on the social ledger. And now it was public record. Dad's last stand that evening. Douglas Harper attempted to fight back. He stormed into the kitchen, grabbed my mother's hands, and shouted, "We'll appeal. We'll find a lawyer. This is a mistake." Evelyn clasped his arms, tears in her eyes. "There is no mistake. This paper says our names." They both knew it was real. No judge would reverse a clear contract. The law was absolute. A night of realization. Late that night, they sat at the kitchen table. Maps of legal forms and eviction timelines spread out under a single lamp. No neighbors. No cameras, just two people facing the collapse of the life they had built around controlling me. My dad's voice was quiet when he finally spoke. "I never wanted this." My mother shivered. "I never thought it would come to this." For the first time, they spoke not as judge and jury, but as vulnerable humans. The roles had reversed. They were the ones under scrutiny, under threat, living in fear of losing everything. Silence as victory from Asheville. I watched it all unfold. No celebration, no schadenfreude. Only a deep sense of completion. Their world had fallen apart, not because of dramatic confrontation, but because the very legal ground beneath their feet had shifted. I realized then that true revenge isn't a loud explosion. It's the quiet certainty that justice, however delayed, will find its mark. Ethan's moment of peace. I closed my laptop and walked outside into Grandpa's backyard. Snow crunched beneath my boots. Olivia joined me, wrapping a scarf around my neck. We stood side by side, watching wisps of smoke rise from the chimney. "Are you okay?" she asked softly. I nodded, inhaling the cold air. "I am. More than I've ever been." I understood something essential in that moment. Freedom is not just the absence of chains. It's the presence of choice. I chose myself over their expectations. I chose peace over pain. Final steps before closure. 2 days before the eviction deadline, my agent confirmed the house was officially vacant. Evelyn and Douglas had moved into a small apartment on the outskirts of Newton. No more lawn, no more oak tree, just cramped walls and the weight of regret. I transferred the deed from Harper Revival Properties, LLC, into my personal trust. It was time to decide the house's fate. I could demolish it, sell it, or leave it standing as a monument to the choice I had made. I chose to sell, not to profit, but to reclaim a piece of my past and let it become someone else's beginning. In the final chapter, I'll share the lessons I learned from this journey, how failure can be a doorway to self-discovery, and why silence can be the most powerful form of justice. It's not just my story. It's a mirror for anyone who's ever felt trapped by expectations. I watched the for sale sign go up, 123 Maple Avenue sold. I wasn't the buyer anymore. A new family would move in soon, unaware of its history. For them, it was a fresh start. For me, it was closure. Closure doesn't always roar. Sometimes it's a quiet exhale. Lesson 1. Your worth isn't their measure. I lived 2 decades believing my value was tied to grades, salary, approval. Every success felt hollow because it was someone else's goal. When I finally broke free, I realized worth isn't a number on a transcript or a paycheck. It's the sum of the choices you make for yourself. The moment I chose my passion over their expectations, when I picked up that wrench with Grandpa, I began to reclaim my identity. Your value is defined by your own compass, not by the applause or the disappointed silence of others. Lesson 2. Healing can be practical. You might expect therapy or a grand gesture. Mine was rebuilding cars in a dusty garage and sketching designs late into the night. Hands-on work grounded me. It reminded me I was capable of creation, not just compliance. Sometimes healing requires physical acts, fixing an engine, planting a garden, building something with your own hands. These simple rituals can reconnect you to your mind and body. Lesson 3. Silence is a weapon. Revenge in movies is dramatic. Mine was deliberate and silent. Legal notices replaced shouting. Eviction notices became the loudest statement I could make. You don't always need confrontation to win. Sometimes letting the system work for you, following rules precisely, can deliver the justice you deserve. Silence can echo louder than any scream. Lesson 4. True support changes everything. Moments of betrayal deepen wounds, but moments of unconditional support stitch them back together. Olivia left her life in California to join me. Grandpa never questioned my flaws. He simply offered belief. Real allies don't judge your past. They invest in your future. Find people who celebrate your spark, not those who try to extinguish it. Lesson 5. Restarting isn't failing. Walking away from that red brick house felt like defeat, but it was the necessary restart. I lost a career, thousands of dollars, my home, but I gained direction. Sometimes failure isn't a full stop, it's a comma, a pivot. When you lose what you thought defined you, you get the chance to rebuild your definition. Open ending. What's next for Ethan? After selling the house, I funneled the proceeds into a larger workshop near Asheville. Harper Revival Co. launched a new line of minimalist furniture and electric bike prototypes. I also set up a scholarship for young designers struggling under parental pressure, funded by 10% of our profits. It's my way of giving back the second chance I was never offered. But this story isn't over. I still sketch new ideas at midnight. I still feel the pang of those old chains when a critical email lands. Freedom is a journey, not a destination. Universal connection. Maybe you've felt like me, trapped by someone else's vision of success. Maybe you've endured silence that stung worse than words. This isn't just my story. It's a mirror for anyone who's ever wondered, am I living my life or someone else's? If you're there now, remember, you are not alone. Your story could be the spark that lights someone else's path. If Ethan's journey resonated, hit like and share in the comments. Have you ever broken free from expectations? What practical step changed your life? Don't forget to subscribe for more stories that remind us we're all flawed, all learning, and all capable of writing our own endings. Ring the bell to join our community where we celebrate every small victory and learn to define success on our own terms. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next story. Stay true, stay free,